here's a video of the 10 questions that you missed. So what are the values of a and b in the equation 4 to the x to the a to the b equals 256 over x to the 8th power? So we know that x has to end up equaling to the 8th power. So that's why all of them are 2 and 4. So we can use our answers to help us out. So if it was positive 2 and positive 4, that couldn't be an answer because we know that the x has to end up on the bottom. So it has to have a negative value at one point in time. So that eliminates our answers where they're both positive or both negative, because that would give us a positive for 4. For x to the, it would give us a positive power. We need it to be a negative 8 so that it ends up in the denominator. Then we also needed it to be a positive 4 to the positive power because the 256 stays on top. So it had to be this one where the a was the negative and b was the positive. So if it was 4x to the negative 2 raised to the positive 4, 4 to the 4th power is positive 256, and that would give me x to the negative 8, which is equal to 256 over x to the 8. Because using the laws of exponents, the x to the negative 8 would go into the denominator. Okay, triangle XYZ is reflected across the line y equals x, and x prime equals 2, negative 15. What are the coordinates of x? So when we reflect something over y equals x, which is this line, this is y equals x, the coordinates flip, but it's not a rotation, so they don't become their opposites. So they just reverse. So xy becomes yx. So that's why this was the correct answer, because it just flips them around. Okay, the triangle in the grid below is translated 3 units to the left and 9 units down. What is the coordinates of C? So these are a little tricky to do without having something to graph. So you might want to graph it on a sheet of graph paper. So it's translated 3 units to the left. So here's C is right here. We go 3 units left, 1, 2, 3, and 9 units down, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. This would have gone 2 more down. So it now be at negative 7. So the coordinates would have been negative 4, because this is negative 4, we ended up here, negative 7. I think what happened is that you went down the correct numbers, you went right instead of left. Okay. If 2 and 4, angle 2 and angle 4 are congruent, so 2 and 4 because they're vertical angles, and 5 and 7 are congruent, it says describe all the lines that must be parallel. Knowing these are congruent no matter what because they're vertical angles, so the lines don't have anything to do with them being congruent, so we don't know for sure that the lines have to be parallel. So the lines don't have to be parallel in this situation. So they can be, but they don't have to. So we would say neither lines R and S nor lines of T must be parallel. They can be, but they don't have to be. All right, which expression represents a rational number? All right, the definition of a rational number means it is a fraction, A over B, or can be written as a fraction, which means it can be an integer. It can be a decimal that repeats or terminates. It can be a fraction. It can be a whole number. I'm not going to list them all out. It can be a natural number. So it says which expression represents a rational number. So the first one has a fraction in it, but the square root of 18 is an irrational number because it's like pi and goes on forever. So it can't be the first one. Even though the square root of 16 is 4, pi is not rational, so it can't be this one. The next one is true because 2/7 is a fraction, plus the square root of 121 is 11, so it's a perfect square, and the square root of 11 is not. It's an irrational number, so that was the only correct answer. All right, Mara ran 3 kilometers north and then 4 kilometers east. She will finish her run by running directly home. What was the total distance of her run? Okay, so first we have to do a squared plus b squared equals c squared, which is what I think you did. So you ended up with 3 squared plus 4 squared to get 9 plus 16 because 25 equals c squared. So that means c equals 5. But it didn't ask you what x was. It asked you what the total was. So you had to add in the final answer 3 plus 4 plus 5, which is 12. That's why 12 is the answer. What is the quotient? All right, so the rule for doing the for quotients with exponents, the laws of exponents, we subtract them. So what you could do is you take -4 minus -9, change it to addition to make it -4 plus 9, which is 5. So the answer was 7 to the 5th. I think that you inferred that it was going to be -5 and then flipped it to be a fraction. You could have flipped it first and made it 7 to the 9th over 7 to the 4th. 9 minus 5 is positive. 9 minus 4 is positive 5. All right. 4 students were asked to label angles in a pair of triangles. Their drawings are shown. Not drawn to scale, not drawn to scale. So 61 point, says 4 students, the drawings are shown below. Which student labeled the triangles such that triangle ABC is congruent, similar to triangle XYZ. So the angles have to be the same. So it was Kai that was correct because he's the only one whose angles added to 180 degrees. All right, which statement correctly describes the diagram? Triangle B is a reflection of triangle A. That is correct. They are reflections across the x-axis. And triangle C is not a reflection of triangle A. That's correct. So this is the one that was correct. Okay, which pair of non-congruent figures must be similar? Okay, squares are always similar no matter what. They have 4 equal sides, 4 equals angles. No matter how big or small I make, they're going to be similar to each other because they would make the same ratio. Where 2 isosceles triangles do not have to be similar because their ratios can be different because there's one side that's different. If they were equilateral, then they would be similar.